gonna end up eating a steady diet of government cheese and living in a van down by the river.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and what would you do if you could take a month or more off work? If you thought sleep on the ground in the forest and walk for days without showering, like everybody else, you're going to love our guest today, Pacific Crest Trail hiker Krista Edwards. In our headline, Family Members Need Money? We'll share tips on sharing. Plus, we'll throw out the Haven Lifeline to Nina, who's wondering which side is up on the prospectus. Wait, prospectuses? Prospecti? Whatever. All that paperwork the rest of us throw away. And then I'll share some nature-inspired trivia. And now, two guys who only walk outside when they hear the ice cream truck coming, Joe and O-J-J-J-J-G.
Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday and the Drumstick for the Win podcast. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, Average Joe Money on Twitter. And I think that's a good one. I kind of like that rocket pop as well, you know, with the red, white, and blue. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, ice cream sandwiches if I'm getting something, or Snickers, frozen Snickers, like a Snickers ice cream bar. That's what I would go with.
I do like the Snickers ice cream bar.
Those are good, but they feel small to me. Like that's a 3-biter max. It's the Snickers ice cream bar.
Really?
Yeah, I love the flavor.
The king-size ones.
So you just down it.
Yeah, most things are 3-bite. 3 bites for me. You know, double Whopper with extra onions. It's 3 bites.
Doug's eating 5 feet of Snickers bars, 6 inches at a time.
Yep. That's me. Oh, you nailed it, OG.
We got a great show today. Krista Edwards is going to tell us about this dream that she had to go on a big, long hike, Pacific Crest Trail, all the way from Mexico to Canada. If you've ever had a big dream and thought, you know what, I don't think I can do that. Krista just did all the things you think that you wouldn't do. Quit her job, went out and hiked and spent the entire summer hiking. We're going to talk to her about that entire experience.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
Our headline today comes to us from the Wall Street Journal. This one was picked by the OG, so maybe he'll have a comment or two on this one. It is written by Robin Friedman. Helping your kids qualify for a mortgage, what to know before co-signing on the dotted line. Robin writes, with rising interest rates and slowing real estate sales, homeownership remains out of reach for many would-be buyers, according to the National Association of Home Builders. In the second quarter of 2022, housing affordability fell to its lowest point since the 2007-2009 recession. A couple paragraphs in, Robin says, one option to improve affordability, especially for those who lack good credit, have mom and dad co-sign the mortgage.
Easy.
Many parents are willing to do so, according to data prepared for the Wall Street Journal by LendingTree online loan marketplace. Reported that 57% of parents said they co-signed their child's mortgage and 7% have done so in the past. What could possibly go wrong, OG?
Oh, you know, little this, little that. I don't know why you would co-sign a loan for another person. Least of all, if you can't qualify for it, you can't qualify for it. Like, you're just not at the stage in your life where you get to have that thing yet. And I understand there's different areas where there's like housing affordability, you know, it's like, well, but I want to have a house, but it's $1 million. It's like, okay, well, that's the price to pay, you know, in that area. And if you don't have enough money to make a down payment or to afford that, then you don't get to live, you know, you don't get to live in a house there, you know, pick a smaller one or something else. But man, it's so risky to co-sign for other people on anything, a mortgage in particular. I don't know. Not a big fan.
I loved it when Buffy Purcell was here this summer and she said the 3 most dangerous words, OG, the 3 most dangerous words out of somebody's mouth are I deserve it. And the second that you say those 3 words and you get mom and dad on board, I mean, all mom and dad are doing in this case is helping you mess up your financial future. I think if you're not ready, there's a reason. There's a reason why
I'm sure,
get that house.
we're going to get an email or two that's like, oh, you don't understand what it's like to live in such and such a place, and it's super expensive, and that sort of stuff. And the great thing about the country that we live in is that, like, quite literally you can move 2,000 miles away. You use the same money. You don't need permission to go there. You speak the same language. And especially now with, a lot of work from home stuff, some of this, and not all of it, and it's not a blanket statement by any stretch, but some of this is kind of sort of self-inflicted. It's like, I want to live in this cool area, or I want to live in this expensive town because A, B, C, and D. And it's like, all right, cool. But that's part of the cost of admission. We're going to Disney in a couple weeks. It's super expensive. That's just part of the deal. If you don't want to pay the prices at Disney, you go to Six Flags instead. It's a different experience. It doesn't make it any better or worse. It's just different. So I understand that different areas have different costs and entry points and that sort of thing. And it's going to be a lot more expensive to live in Silicon Valley than it is to live in whatever North Dakota at the start of Doug's hiking trail, although maybe it's super expensive there too. But that's kind of the, it's kind of the price that you pay for the stuff that goes on in San Francisco, right? Like I want to live in this cool town. Okay, part of that is it costs a little bit more. Yeah. So,
but getting rid of all that, this is still built on a house of cards, which isn't true. It's built on a fallacy, which is that home ownership is a good thing financially. Like, this is a solid financial move.
Here we go.
And increasingly, it's not.
Hot take.
Hot
take.
For everyone all the time.
Don't get me wrong. I love my house. Love the fact I own my house. It is the biggest money pit on my net worth statement. It is not a solid quote investment. And when a parent helps a kid into an investment of a property versus helping them rent a place, especially when the average person changes jobs, every 2.5 years now? Do they even know they're going to live there long enough for it to pay off?
I think you bring up a good point and say investment. It's like if you were to actually treat that idea or think of it like that and say, well, I just need to go find an investment that pays my mortgage, it makes a lot more sense for me to partner with mom and dad to buy a rental property wherein we put in, we put in some cash, or, mom puts in the money and I put in the work and, do all the, you know what I mean? And then we've got a cash flow that now we can use to help, move into the place that we really want to move into or something like that. Like, that to me makes a lot more sense than acquiring somebody else's debt. I mean, let's just kind of cut to the chase on the downside of this. If you co-sign a loan and they choose not to pay, you're on the hook for whatever reason, right? Like sickness, injury, job loss, divorce, whatever, death, you are on the hook for that mortgage payment.
We talked about this very simply early this summer. I mean, what my kid owed $14 to a credit union, and my name was on that account.
Oh,
$14 freaking dollars to a credit union. My name's on that. Imagine now it's a $300,000 mortgage.
Well, it's good to hear you turn the page on that little incident earlier this year, Joe. I can tell you're really emotionally through it.
I think it's a good lesson for everybody. I mean, isn't it a good lesson?
No, it is. Yeah. And I'm glad you came back full circle there, OG, and said, here's why you don't do it. And I just had that moment earlier this summer as well. The Fintern moved to Chicago, and he just wanted to be there. He has a great job, and that their company decided they're completely remote. Everybody is, work from home. So he can be anywhere he's got a good internet connection. He's just a young person who wanted to move to the big city, and I totally support that. It's a great life experience to go do. So, we're all behind him going to do that. And then as he finds a place to live, and he just casually says to me, "Oh, I may need you to co-sign on the lease." I said, "No, you don't."
Warning.
Yeah, and he didn't know any better. But he thought, there was a spot for it on the lease, like a cosigner spot. And he's like, I might need you to do that. He just assumed he might because he didn't have any established income at that point. I think he'd had his job for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And he just assumed, I'm probably going to need one. And I just flatly said, you don't. And he said, well, but if I do. And I said, well, if you do, I'm not doing it. Like, this is your choice. Back to your point you made a few minutes ago. You're choosing to go to Chicago. And Mom and I are cool with that, but if it doesn't work out for you financially, you're not taking us down with you. And he had no idea that any of that were possible repercussions. So that was a big eye-opening experience for him there. But I probably could have put a little velvet on that hammer in the way I told him no.
Nah.
but
right down Main Street.
That was a groove fastball right down the middle.
No sauce on that.
Investopedia has a piece about how to, if you're going to loan money to family, how to do it and not regret it. And these are the key takeaways from the piece. Number one, treat loans to friends and family as a business deal. Keep all your emotions out of it. That's easier said than done. I think when you're dealing with family, you can say, oh yeah, I'm not going to be emotional about this. Yeah, you will. You're going to be sitting across from this person who just took their family to Disney and they owe you a ton of money.
Wow. That's oddly specific.
3 times a week, you're going to be sitting across some idiot.
I swear to God, I'll pay you back.
It's like that meme that, like Maury, the Maury Povich show where he's got the little envelope and he's like, this DNA sample says whatever, right?
Yeah.
The headline says, you said you'd pay me back in 2 weeks. And he's got the little thing, and then below it says, the new Xbox in your living room says otherwise.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah. Regardless of what you think about it, it's going to be a heavy, soupy thing hanging over the relationship for quite a while.
It's disgusting.
If not ever, right?
I think the other 4 of these, we can get much more behind than that one. Number 2, don't expect to be paid back. Love that. But if you do,
full stop.
Expect it to be on a slow timeline. Like, don't expect that it's going to be 2 weeks. Expect the fact that you're going to be dragging money out of them very, very slowly. But I like the first half of that sentence. Yeah, full stop. 3rd, make a checklist of questions you need to answer before you open the coffers. I really like, at the very least, Doug, I really like the in a discussion with the FinTern, what are all the avenues? You know what I mean? So what are all the things that we can do to help you build your credit? Because he immediately went to the bottom one, which, by the way, isn't just him. It's also these leasing agents that do that. Oh, just have your parent co-sign. You're good. Just have your parent co-sign.
It's great for them. Yeah. Of course they want your parents to co-sign it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the person trying to get money out of your pocket definitely loves that. But I love the checklist of questions. Help them work through co-signing. Let's walk through how that works and what that's actually about. Next, consider gifting the money instead of loaning it, which goes back to the second one, and don't expect to be paid back. And the last one might be my favorite. Don't keep the loan a secret from your spouse. That might be. God. Oh, by the way, I loan my brother 10 grand.
No, we loan my brother 10 grand.
This article just dipped into the 7th layer of Dante's Inferno.
Yeah. Well, we had more money than that. Well, we loaned 10 grand to my brother.
And then you'll be needing a cosign on the apartment you have to get because your wife kicked you out.
That's right. I could just imagine that conversation. Hey, can you pass the tartar sauce? Oh, the funniest thing happened yesterday.
Yeah. Just so that we're all on the same page. Last Christmas, remember when things were a little tight? Well, the reason they were tight was because loaned $10,000 to my brother. Things were tight for him too, but the good news is that he's going to pay us back someday.
No. And the good news, and I just found out yesterday that it's a gift. Pass the ketchup, please.
By law, apparently.
Right.
Something about finders, keepers, losers, weepers. I'm not exactly sure the legal ramifications of that, but I got a nana boo boo and stick your head in doo doo when I tried to collect.
If we want that money back, we're going to have to go to the campground with them. Yeah. Let's do this. If you want to dive even further into this topic or any topic we talk about on the show, we keep it 101 here. It goes to 201 in our newsletter, stackybenjamins.com/201. And right now, this week still, if you refer other people to the 201, you're getting we've been pronouncing this name wrong. You guys finally, we create all these assets, all this great stuff. Sure looks like Magneto to me, but what is it? Magneto? It's Magneto?
It's Magneto.
Magneto skateboards. You can tell what a skateboard legend I am, but go watch the video of me.
Hey, you didn't screw it up the most. If you go to watch all these YouTube videos of people who are actual skaters, sorry, I know you're an actual skater, Joe, but actual skaters who are reviewing this thing, one guy pronounced it Magento. Like, completely transposing letters. So you're good. I don't think they're worried about you.
At least I got it phonetically in the ballpark. Yeah. Magneto skateboards. Fantastic skateboards. So we got to try these out. They're beautiful. We're giving 3 of them away. Do your holiday shopping for you. StackingBenjamins.com/201 and refer some people.
I didn't see the correlation there, OG. If I look at the screen right now, I see 3 people who could also have 3 Yeah, they have children too, some of whom are at the age that might enjoy skateboarding.
OG, we have a discount code for you. Because
pool or pond would be good for you.
If you don't win,
did you not hear the part about him going to Disney soon? He can't afford a skateboard.
Yeah. A Mahento skateboard.
Our guest today is just an amazing young woman. She has the Ready to Roth brand, teaching young people how to get saving. And Krista Edwards, when she was on a roundtable, really brought it a year ago. And when I just saw her recently at FinCon, she says, hey, guess what I did? I just walked from Mexico to Canada. Like, unbelievable. The stuff that she does, just an amazing person. She's going to describe the entire trip for us here today. So how do you quit your job? What's that discussion with your boss like? Or does your boss let you have a hiatus for this? I don't know. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this whole adventure she went on and how hopefully she inspires you and I to treat life as an adventure. But before we do that, we got some adventurous trivia. Can we get this one right? Doug, you got an easy one or a tough one today?
I don't ever really know where it's going. I just start talking for a while, and I don't know if it's going to be hard or easy.
Emanates from your soul.
Until I get to the question, so I have no idea. Sometimes I just start talking like Michael in The Office.
It emanates from my soul.
And I hope the words form a sentence. Can I do the trivia now? Will we just go on the adventure that is my trivia? Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. And yes, nature. It's all sun and games until the storm brews your way. Today is actually the anniversary of the Earth's strongest storm, according to Scientific American. On this date in 1979, Typhoon Tip reached its peak. It was so large that if you put it over the map of the United States, it would have covered the area from Dallas to New York City, much like Joe's mom's underwear. So my question is, how many miles per hour did its peak wind gust reach? I'll be back right after I batten down my hatches. And yes, that is a euphemism. Hey there, stackers. I'm unscientific American and wind chime sympathizer, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. That's a lie. Wind chimes are annoying as hell. Typhoon Tip, who quite frankly sounds like a really nice guy, produced the lowest sea level pressure ever observed on Earth. I don't have to know what that means to be impressed. So, how strong did the winds get during this, the strongest storm ever? 190 miles an hour. Sounds like that was more than just the tip, huh? And now, to help you create some better weather for your life, Krista Edwards.
And Miss Ready to Roth herself is back in the basement. Krista Edwards is here. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Well, I just saw you at FinCon, and I had no idea how painful FinCon must have been just walking anywhere after what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, FinCon was an experience, mentally, physically, all of it.
It is for me, and I didn't do half of what you did. So let's start the beginning of your story. This is kind of a chicken or the egg question. You're about to embark on this huge hike, but which one came first? Did you decide you wanted to take months hiking? And we'll talk about where here in a second. Or did you decide you really wanted to quit your job? Because there's no way already. I know you do great financially, but there's no way you're already financially independent.
No. So that's certainly not the situation I'm in. But yeah, the idea of the hike came first. It was, I really want to do this. I got really excited about it. How do I make it happen? And then that's when quitting the job happened, because I couldn't do both.
When did the genesis of the idea for the hike come? Was this a couple of years ago so you could get financially ready? Or was it on Monday, I decided I want to hike, on Thursday, I'm going in to quit?
No, it's been a long time coming for us. So I did this with a group of 4, my girlfriend and 2 friends that we have from soccer and college. But we originally tried to do this in 2020. So the planning for this started really once we graduated college. The idea kind of hatched. So around 2016, we were like, yeah, sounds like something we want to do. And then about 2 years before, we were like, okay, we should probably figure out how we're going to make this work financially. So we were actually ready to go in 2020. We quit our jobs. We put our stuff in storage. We bought our flights. We were like ready to go in March. And then obviously pandemic.
Something happened, right?
So that's what pushed it for 2 years for us. We had a nice buffer. We got to go back to work for a little bit longer and really build up the savings. But once the idea was planted, it was like, all right, we're doing it. We just have to figure out how.
Did you go back to the same job? Did your boss take you back?
My boss didn't. I think everyone else in my group went back to the same job.
Wow, really?
Yeah, that was pretty cool, because I mean, when they wanted to do it again, they didn't have to have the awkward conversation. I was interested in a career change anyway, so I reached out to them, but it was kind of mutual. It wasn't going to work, so I got a different role.
Well, that's good too, because that's also more experience under your belt. And I love this idea of working on the resume and all kinds of different things that you've done, and not even the resume as much as just life experiences working in a different place. So you hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. Can you tell the Stacker community what the Pacific Crest Trail is?
Yes, the Pacific Crest Trail, or you might hear it referred to as PCT for short. It's a long distance trail. It's very similar to the Appalachian Trail, which most folks may have heard of, but this one's actually on the West Coast. It's a 2,653 mile trail that starts in Campo, California, which is right on the border of Mexico, California, and then it finishes right on the border of Washington and Canada. So you're pretty much hiking, if you're picturing the West Coast, you're hiking all the way through California, all the way through Oregon, all the way through Washington until you touch the terminus, which is what marks the end and the beginning. So yeah, it's quite a long walk, as my dad called it. It's quite a long walkabout.
Quite a long walk. Yes, absolutely. Have you ever seen, there's a good documentary too that we can link to. There's a documentary called A Mile and a Half. Have you seen that documentary?
I haven't.
Apparently that's hiker terminology. You would know this better than me, for when you're talking to somebody and they're like, how much further is it? And you're like, oh, a mile and a half. And it's basically hiker terminology for we have no clue.
Oh my gosh, that is so accurate. I don't know how many times I'd be like, how long is this hill? And some people in our group like to round up. Some people like to round down. So you've got to really be careful. If you tell someone it's only a mile, but it ends up being 1.9, that's not the kind of rounding that I like.
Oh, me
I'd rather
neither.
hear 2 miles.
Please, God, yes. And this trail isn't flat. I mean, in some places it's flat, but you go over some serious mountain ranges.
Yeah, it's actually, it's more uphill than I originally thought. I'm not going to lie. Being from the East Coast, I had this pretty specific idea of what I thought the desert was like. Very flat, the tumbleweeds that kind of roll everywhere. It's like, beginning of the trail is going to be a breeze. I quickly found out that the desert section, which is 700 miles when you start, it's actually pretty hilly. So you're up and down constantly. You climb a hill every day, and that kind of kicks it off. But in terms of serious mountain ranges, you're looking at the Sierra Mountain Range in California, just kind of like the best section of the whole trail. But you're doing some serious climbing there. And then once you get into Washington, the trail really kicks your butt again before you're done. It's up and
You've
down.
got the Cascades at the end.
Yeah, so you finish, the two hardest sections of the trail are the last sections of the trail.
This is a planning show, and I definitely want to talk about planning. When you quit your job, how much of a buffer did you have? Tell me about the planning that went into this.
Yeah, so planning wise, the first step for me was just figuring out what the actual trail expenses would look like. And that was kind of twofold because there's some pretty serious gear stuff you need to consider. There's always a balance between how much am I going to pay for something to make it really light and how much do I want to save money and maybe carry a little more. So there's kind of the physical mental balance. So right away we started doing some planning around gear, figuring out how much it would cost. And then to your point, figuring out, well, I've still got life bills, right? I'm going to need to be able to live off of stuff when I get home before I get another job. So that ended up being around $10,000 for me was my initial budget. And that was to support myself gear and food wise on the trail, and then also to take care of about 6 months worth of expenses. So I built up that fund that I knew I was going to spend on the trail. I pretty much doubled that in terms of my life savings when I got back in case, it takes me up to 6 months or so to bounce around before I find another consistent job. So all in, I'm looking at about 20,000, 10,000 I've already spent. And then the other 10, I'm kind of living on until hopefully it doesn't go down too much, but until I get another job.
That's the financial part, but there's also a logistical challenge because you've got to predict where you're going to end every day, I would think.
Yes. So on the trail itself, we really broke it down into bite-sized chunks. About every 4 to 8 days, you're going to cross a road that will lead into a town. So in terms of strategy on trail, we call this the resupply strategy. So you're definitely not carrying 5 months worth of food.
Thank God.
Really, you're carrying that. No one would make it. Really, you're carrying about 4 to 7 days worth of food because what you do is you'll go into a town about that time and you'll either have sent yourself food or you'll go into a grocery store and resupply that way. There's a lot of logistics that go into, mailing. When do you need to have stuff delivered to certain post offices? Actually learned a ton about the general delivery system. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
No, what is that?
So I had no idea, but at most US post offices, you can mail something to yourself there and have it for general delivery pickup. So in our case, we would say, all right, I'm going to be in the next town in a week or two. I'm going to pack a box here with the food that I'll need once I get there and just send it ahead to the next post office. And as long as you address it, then most of the time it gets there. I'd say about 90% of the time you'll be safe with that. And then the nice thing about that method is if you use priority mailboxes, like the white ones, when you go into the post office, as long as, so say you get there and you realize that you have extra food, you don't need everything in the box. As long as you don't open it, you can do what's called bouncing it. So you can just have that post office send it to any other post office in the world for you, or in the US for you for free, no extra charge.
You had a couple times I was reading on Rebecca's blog. Your friend Rebecca did a blog of the whole thing. We'll also link to this for people that want the day by day because she's an excellent writer. And you get into some of the brutal nature of what it's like hiking every day because she pulls no punches, man. And we'll get into this in just a second. Plus some gorgeous, gorgeous shots. She took some great pictures along the way. But she talks about a couple times. I know once near the end of the trail, Krista, I was reading, your stuff didn't make it to the post office in time, like it had been delayed. If your package is delayed, it talked about you going into the grocery store to resupply that way. But can you tell the people at the post office to then bounce it ahead once it gets there?
Exactly. Yeah. So a couple times we had to do this. In the instance you're talking about, since we were so close to the end, it didn't make sense to forward it anywhere because we were pretty much done. But earlier in the trail, we got to a town, you really can't dilly-dally that long, right? So if your package isn't there the day of or the day after, you're not going to stick around because you have to be on a pretty strict schedule. But yeah, we were able to call up the post office, just a local number, and ask them to send it 2 or 3 towns ahead just to give it time to get there. So it ends up evening out. If you miss a package, then you'll be able to make it up later as long as it's not the last stop.
Let's talk about your feelings along the way. Tell me how you felt starting off on this trip.
I like to call it the first week or two. Let's think of it like a honeymoon phase. Um, I just quit my job. I was like, I'm not working for 6 months. I'm an athlete. I'm really excited about the physical challenge. I was like mentally on a high. Nervous for sure, because I'd never done anything like this, but I felt, really excited about it. I'd say after the first 2 weeks, honestly, things started to get really tough for me. I'm a pretty routine oriented person. I like to have my structure. I like to kind of know what's going to happen. And I was thrown into this world where every day is different. You don't really know what to expect. And also the daily tasks of like the tent and the management and the gear and all of that, I just didn't have a handle on yet. So I was feeling really overwhelmed. It took me about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month at that point, to feel confident enough in what my day to day started to look like. Like I'm not fumbling with the tent. I know how to roll my sleeping bag up really efficiently, so I'm not like always the last one in the morning that's holding everyone back, because that was my thing in the morning. I was like super slow. Everyone was waiting on me. I felt like I just didn't have it together. But finally things started to click. And then once that happened, I really felt like I started to hit my stride. But honestly, Joe, the first month to month and a half, I had that honeymoon week. And then after that, I was kind of down in the dumps for a while until I figured it out.
What about physically? I mean, I know you're an athlete, but as I'm looking through the blog, you're going between 20 and 27 miles damn near every day.
Yeah, I'll have to say that the trail kicked my ass every single day. There was definitely a point where, for me, toward the middle to end of the trail about Oregon, I finally felt like I could do the miles and wake up the next day and not be in like a lot of pain. That felt like the peak of my physical condition. But beyond that, I mean, there's some stuff to consider. Like normally, if you're an athlete, you're used to, you work out hard and then you take some time off and you give yourself that kind of recovery period. With a through hike like this, you don't have that time. Maybe you get a day or two off once a month, maybe 3 days, depending on how many days you decide to take in towns. But your body doesn't get to recover, so there's a lot of swelling and joint pain that happens. On top of the fact, like we said, you only carry enough food for 4 to 7 days, so you kind of have to make it to the next town.
How did the coping go with leaving your job? I got to imagine that to some degree, there's a residual. Like I'm thinking about people tell me when they retire, right? They retire and they think that, hey, there's this hallelujah, the job's gone. But it's it takes me 3 days in a vacation, Krista, to get actually away from my job.
Yeah, that was a piece that I wasn't necessarily expecting. It took me probably a month to stop waking up and having kind of initial, I call it work panic, work anxiety. Like, all right, I got to start prioritizing. I need to follow up with clients. I was in a very customer facing role. So I'm like, oh shoot, like let me organize my mind. And it took me a while because I think I'm also someone who maybe has a tendency to like really lean into work. That's something that this trip kind of taught me, the importance of balance. But in the beginning, I was definitely in that mindset until kind of a change happened in my mind where the hike became work. And now that became my focus. So I'm waking up and I'm trying to figure out how to be efficient, how to make sure we got there, all of the logistical things.
It's while the walk becomes the job.
Exactly.
I want to read from late in the trail because I think Rebecca's writing here puts a pin on what we're talking about. This is day 149, people. Day 149. You're 2,502.5 miles into the hike, and there's just some of the most gorgeous pictures here. Before she writes, we're hiking in some of the most beautiful land in the country, and it's hard to enjoy it fully when you're so tired from hiking all day. We just want to be done. Hiking went pretty smoothly all day. The hills were tough because now I think we are in section K. My feet weren't so bad either. I'm, however, starting to get severe hiker hunger like I had in the Sierras. What is hiker hunger?
That is just when your appetite cannot be satiated at all. Like you are just starving. Oh, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Everything you eat, you burn almost instantly. So it feels like you can never get full.
she talks about in a different post about how her butt has gotten so much smaller that her pants don't fit anymore. Did you find all of you were losing weight along the trail?
That's so funny. So Rebecca lost weight. Rachel and I gained weight. But this is interesting. We lost or maintained our like clothing sizes, but we gained weight. So it felt like I definitely got trimmer and more cut, I guess I would say, but I was heavier. So I think for me, I put on some muscle in the butt and in the quads that I wasn't necessarily expecting. Our friend Brad maintained.
We met face to face twice, and I don't know where you would lose weight. So she says, I can't get any more food for the rest of the trail. So she's coping. It's too late to do anything though, because I can't get any more food for the rest of the trail. I have a box ready for me in Stehekin, which, believe it or not, I've been to Stehekin. I was there this summer.
You've been there? Wow.
Yeah. We took that, but we didn't walk in like you did from 2,500 miles away. We took that crazy boat that goes, it takes
that's awesome.
hours to get there. It was gorgeous though. And there's nowhere in that town, it's a tiny town, to supplement extra food. I'll be okay though, because Lifeguard in capitals offered me more Belvita bars if I need them. And we only have about a week left hiking. Who is Lifeguard?
Lifeguard, that's her trail name. Her name is Nikki Lee. She is one of our group members who we met pretty early on in the trail in the Sierra section, and she hiked with us. We became a group of 5, and we hiked the entire trail together. She's fantastic. She's from LA. She definitely added a really nice mixture to our group. She's really funny. She always carried too much food, which was really great for the rest of us. So she kind of supplemented us when we were, couldn't make it up the hill.
But that's, so she was going to tackle this alone though.
Yeah, she started totally alone, female solo hiker. She started a couple days before us, I believe, and we kind of met along the way. But it's actually surprising. I'd say most people start alone or in a group of 2. And we didn't meet anyone else along the trail that started in a group as large as ours. So most people tackle it alone.
Wow. I want to ask you about this. When we took a huge family trip that took almost a month, I'm from Michigan, and we went on this circle tour of everything west of Michigan, which at the beginning started off as a honeymoon. And luckily we weren't walking. But I would say that by the end of this, Krista, every freaking afternoon at 3 p.m., our family had a fight. Like every afternoon. And then I realized that it was chemical, right? It's totally chemical.
Oh,
like
yeah.
We're just having the same stuff. There's got to be some chemical crap going on this trail between you guys as hikers.
Absolutely. So we were a group that really stuck it out, I will say. It's one of the things I'm most proud of, is not just the fact that we finished, but the fact that we all finished together. Because there's definitely a lot to consider when in this kind of situation, it feels like the stakes are really high. You really have to kind of keep yourself alive out there. So in addition to doing that, like getting along with everyone in your group becomes extra tough. I will say there's this thing called the NorCal Blues. So that's a section of the trail where you finish kind of the most beautiful section, and then you still have about 600 or 700 miles of California to finish until you're finally done with the state. And it's not the most beautiful. It's still tough. So there's a lot happening mentally before you get to Oregon. That section for us, it was really tough. We really started to learn about each other's stress responses. We started to learn like when to talk to someone and when not to talk to someone. For my girlfriend and I, we had some tough moments where really this was me. I was struggling with some feelings of insecurity, feeling like I just wasn't getting there physically. I had some moments where I projected, and I don't know if you're all right with me saying this, Joe, but I kind of had a freak out moment in Oregon where I threw my backpack at her. I said, I fucking hate this. Please take the tent, go to camp, like set it up. Like I'll get there when I get there. And I just kind of had this moment where I was like done for the day. I recovered, I kept walking. I got through it, but we definitely had some times like that. But I think in retrospect, it made us a lot stronger as a group, because we've all seen each other down in the dumps, tears, don't want to continue, and we had to rally.
So I wanted to ask you about this because there's a Camp 5. For people who don't know, Camp 5 It's this guy, Stephen Boyer, puts on this great camp in weekends around the United States where people get together and they talk about their values and about it's a group ostensibly of money nerds. And I thought this was going to be a horrible thing. And it was wonderful spending this weekend. Well, you're staying on a mattress that once again, Krista spent nights on the ground and I'm like, you got a mattress this thin. It's not like a Marriott. I don't have any room service. What the hell's up with this? It just sounds very campy, but man, you get there and at the end of the weekend, you've got all of these friends. But this is a long way of saying this camp is right near a town. I don't remember the name of the town, but it's on the Pacific Crest Trail. And when we went into town, there was a restaurant that said free pie for hikers. Like if you're hiking the trail.
Was it Julian?
I think so. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Down by San Diego.
Yep.
Yes, it was. And it's a beautiful little town. But did you learn about these things ahead of time that go into this restaurant and we're going to get free stuff along the way?
It was hit or miss. So there's actually an app. It's called Far Out that you buy the whole trail map and it makes it 10 times easier, honestly, logistically. It shows you water, tent sites, towns.
Oh, nice.
The best thing is it works offline and you can leave comments. So there's a really great hiker community around this trail and people will tell you, like, you'll look ahead and you'll see comments like, go here, talk to Joe, ask him about the tamales. Like he'll slide you 3 free tamales, like all of the little ins and outs that you want to make sure you take advantage of. They're pretty well laid out in the app. So we found out about all of it.
That's fabulous. And then some of these places on this trail, looking at these pictures, you've got a 1,000-foot drop right next to you. Was there any time when you really, really felt a sense of danger or things got really, really tough?
Yeah, I'd say there were 2 big moments for me. One has to do with the cliffs like you're talking about, and one actually has to do with water, which I wasn't expecting. So with the cliff moment, in the Sierra section, it's right around Mount Whitney. It's kind of the highlight of the trail, the big peaks. There are what are called passes. It's like where 2 mountains meet and the trail will go over the mountain there. So you're kind of always either in the valley or approaching a mountain to go over the pass. With that being said, the time of the year that you do it, like early May, mid-May, there's still snow on the passes, but the days are still hot enough to where the snow will start to melt in the afternoon, which creates a dangerous situation where you really have to plan it out so that you're going to do the pass early in the morning while the snow is still hard, because you've got spikes on that help you get over it. But you want to get over it before the snow starts to melt, or else you can pretty much slide down the mountain. There was one pass in particular, it's called Mather Pass, where the snow was just intense. We had a really big group at that point, about 12 people. We're all trying to get over the pass together. The snow started to melt. We had folks that were slipping and sliding. Like one guy's backpack fell all the way down the mountain. He had to catch himself. It was one of those moments where you're like, oh man, like we're really out here. Something happens. I mean, it's going to take hours for someone to get out here. That was a tough moment. And then the water crossings can also be pretty intense with all the snow melt. The PCT does an okay job of bridges, but there definitely could be more. So you're either walking on logs that are slippery or you're just having to walk through the water. And if it's really intense, then it can pretty much take you down. It's kind of the most dangerous part, actually. So
wow.
2 moments that stand out to me.
Big takeaways at the end of the trail after this huge adventure that I'm sure, Krista, you'll never forget. What are your big takeaways?
One that I keep coming back to is this idea that everything is temporary. What I mean by that is I was continually in this situation. There's kind of a joke that like hikers are never happy because you're hot, so you're taking off clothes. You're cold, so you're putting on clothes. It's raining, so you're wet. There's always an element that you're probably not happy about. I think I had a couple moments where it was like that perfect 70-degree day. I wasn't walking, etc. But for the most part, you're dealing with some sort of mental or physical situation. And after facing this literally every single day, what I started to realize was that no matter what is happening right now, it's going to change pretty soon. And it might not be better, it might be worse, but it's going to be different than the moment that I'm in now. So I just started getting really comfortable with this idea that everything's temporary. We'll get through it. And it helped me mentally adapt. And I think now back in what I'm calling the real world, I'm trying to carry with me that same sort of everything is temporary mentality so that I can keep just being present in the circumstances that I'm in and not always focusing on getting out of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Other takeaways?
Yeah. So I think the other thing for me was really that relationships are the most important. Already, when I think back on the trail, I'll think about the pictures and how beautiful things were, but I'm really like wishing I was back in my crew, eating dinner with them at the end of camp, talking about all the craziness that we went through that day. Those are the moments that stick out to me. So just
throwing your backpack at your friend.
Oh my gosh.
Calling her names.
Hopefully I'm going to try to forget those. They won't forget them though.
And any others?
The other one is probably work. It took me going through a pretty extreme journey to finally realize that work-life balance was really important. And that, there are other things in life than just really focusing in on work and career. So I'm trying to keep that in mind as I go into this next phase of my life and figure out, what that looks like for me.
It's hard for so many of us that are goal oriented. I think it's a great lesson that there's these other things, these other adventures that we have. And they say the happiest retirees are retirees that have had a lot of hobbies, and people that learn that early on and have other things that they do tend to be happier people. So I think that's fantastic. You have the Ready to Roth podcast happening.
Yes.
You diving back into a new season?
Yes. So actually in the middle of launching season 2 now, where we're going to focus on investing concepts, and we're also going to incorporate more mindset stuff around, how does your mindset affect your money habits? So excited to meet lots of people, following up on lots of FinCon folks I met. So it's been a blast so far.
That's awesome. And we'll link to the podcast and to Rebecca's amazing blog.
Please check it out.
Listen to the show, read the blog. It's all great stuff. Krista, thanks for taking our Stacker community on a little bit of your adventure. I super appreciate it.
I'm so glad that I got to do that and meet everyone. Thanks for having me, Joe.
I thought you were going to say, I'm so happy I lived to tell. Right.
That is also a very real point. I'm glad we all made it through. Statistically, we shouldn't have. So I'm really proud of that.
Hey, I'm Rob Berger. When I'm not rolling in the dough, that's right, I'm stacking Benjamins.
Big thanks to Krista for sharing that story. How great is that, OG, to just say, you know what? I'm doing this thing. I'm doing it.
See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya.
And I like how her friends were able to negotiate with their boss to take the summer off, just take a hiatus. And for her, it was this opportunity to leave. I feel like a lot of the time people know they want to leave a job. You want to leave. You know that it's not what you want to do the rest of your life. And for a million not very good reasons, you stay. Like, how often have you been in a bad situation and stayed around and went, man, I sure am glad I waited those extra 3 months. Like, never.
11 years.
Never. You're always like, I should have went when I had my first inclination. So Krista looking to make, ago. What's that? Just hanging around the podcast. Hey, Joe, I need to talk. Yeah. Hey, let's throw out the Haven Lifeline and tackle some of life's most important questions. Our friends at Haven Life Insurance Agency, Doug, they put what you value first.
I was trying to point to OG. I'm trying to get you to pick on him for what he values.
OG. I was just wondering, OG, what is it that you value most? As I was thinking.
Well, let's see here. So, already did Halloween candy, and I really value time with family and friends, especially in-laws, as they are on their way shortly to stay for a short period of like roughly, 20-ish days. And the sad news, this is really unfortunate for me, mostly, some for them, is I also have a boatload of out-of-town travel scheduled for the next 2 weeks, which is just a really rough time for them to show up and for me to be gone for 4 days at a time and then home for a day and then gone for another week. It's like, it's kind of a bummer, that
sad coincidence.
It's just, so we'll make do. I'll just have to catch them next time when they get down here, hopefully in 6 or 12 or never months from now. And that's what I really value.
I think I'm going to have a knock on my door about that same time. Doug, are the sheets clean in the guest bedroom? I got to stay here for 4 days.
It's your loved ones and your time.
Yes. See, I knew. I got it right.
Yes, you got it. It's why they made buying quality term life insurance, OG, actually simple. You go to stackingbenjamins.com/haven life now. You get a free quote, their application. It's all simple. It's online. You get an instant coverage decision. Prices are affordable, all issued by their parent company, Mass Mutual, more than 160-year-old insurer. I was talking to Matt from Haven Life at FinCon, and Matt was telling me, OG, that their no underwriting product is great if you need something.
No underwear product?
It's the new, you've got the two sides of Haven Life. It's like the underwriting side, and then if you want to get crazy, go to the underwriting optional
burlesque
side.
The no underwriting
That's
side.
that part of the beach I never get to go to.
Yes, the missus, hey, can we do the no underwriting side? You know, just for a few minutes.
Haven't you always wondered?
Let's just head over to the no underwriting area. I don't know. Who knows? We might like it. We might not like it. I don't know. I'm going to get a call from Matt as soon as this episode goes out. stackingbenjamins.com/haven life. Get your life insurance done, people. And today we're going to throw out the lifeline to Nina. Hey, Nina.
Hey, basement dwellers. Just a quick question for you. What do smart people look for if they bother to open the prospectus and semi-annual reports sent to them for index funds they own? It's awful long, and I'd like to skim to find the good info. Thanks.
Oh, Nina, you know what? That prospectus, nothing I like better, OG, than sitting in front of my solo stove with a prospectus, big, thick prospectus, because a document that size will keep the fire burning for hours.
When was the last time you actually looked at one, do you think?
I would say 19 never.
What, doesn't Nina know that they're supposed to throw us softball questions on this thing?
This is the tough. By the way, thanks for the question, Nina. But if Nina's skimming that prospectus, what does she look for? Actually, there are some good things in there, so maybe we should point out what those
I don't think there is.
Nuggets
no,
are.
I don't think so. I think that everything is a findable that matters already synthesized down on some website somewhere.
Agreed.
So you can go to the product company. So you know, you go to American Funds or Vanguard.com or whatever, and it'll tell you what you need to know. It'll tell you how many stocks you own. It'll tell you, you know, what the costs are. It'll tell you how they get paid, that sort of thing. All the rest of it is, I mean, quite literally just legal mumbo jumbo. That's a technical term. There's parts in there talk about how fund managers are paid, talks about who owns what, like, you know, how many different beneficial ownerships there are of the fund company. It's really, mutual fund companies are set up pretty weird. It's not like, you know, just a fund. It's a fund is owned by a fund, is owned by a board of trustees, is owned by you. And it's, you know, there's just all these different layers in there. But I think the stuff that matters would be, what do they own? How often are they trading it? What are their criteria for trading? And, you know, how much does it cost? And all of that's findable on Morningstar or on the website of the company. An individual stock.
But that doesn't mean it's not in there. That doesn't mean it's not in there.
Oh, it's 100% in there.
Yes.
But like, do you really need to know how much the assistant to the assistant fund manager makes in compensation?
Not at
how
all.
How many shares he or she owns? Like,
not at all. But my question was, my answer was, there is some good stuff in there. Let's tell her what the good stuff is. I agree. You don't look for it here, but what's the good stuff that she should be looking for?
I asked and answered, Your Honor.
Regardless. Exactly. I'm just telling you that it is in the prospectus.
You're saying.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. I don't even know. They don't even send them anymore. I think they just send you a link.
Yeah. Nope. I get an email that goes, hey, it's online.
I have a story about this. So one time, I don't remember when this was, but it was a long time ago. I got a thing in the mail at my office that said, hey, we have a package for you, but there's not enough postage. So you need to come and get it so that you can pay the postage. Go to the post office and, you know, it's like, wait in line. Finally get up there and they're like, can I help you? I said, yeah, I've got this card. I've got some mail. Somebody sent me something. They're like, oh, yeah, I know what this is. Hold on a second. And they come out with a stack. And you guys can't see it. Let me see if I can get in the camera. So that's my hand right there. Now, much bigger, a stack of prospectuses from a mutual fund company, all shrink wrapped. Like I'm like the prospectus delivery person. Like I'm supposed to get these and then hand them out to people. But they didn't include enough postage. So the post office is like, you owe us $32 in order to get this pack of stuff. And I'm like, well, can I see what I'm getting first? And so they bring it out and I go, can I decline it? Do I have to pay? They're like, yeah, you don't have to take it. We'll send it back to them and charge them. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So this investment company sent me, I don't know, 1,000 of them. I'm not sure. It was like, it was so many. It was obviously an error in their shipping department and then didn't send enough postage and tried to hit me with the postage bill to be their errand boy. So,
or that's a fun company on its last leg, right? Like,
yeah, they're like, we've got an idea. This is how we're going to raise money, guys. I'm going to send all the prospectuses,
save money on shipping,
not put any postage on there.
Nina, the best place to go, I think, is Morningstar.com. The reason for that is they're a very respected third-party service that will dive in. The worst thing about Morningstar, I think, OG, is the star rankings that they give. But I think that's the worst thing. People misunderstand the star rankings. They don't understand how they work. And because of that, they make horrible decisions based on star rankings. But everything else that you find on Morningstar is very good. You
yeah,
can
the
find
data
out
stuff is fine to look at.
Fees, holdings, past performance, if it's an active fund, how long that manager's been there, all the stuff you really need. Volatility, risk, measurements, all good stuff at Morningstar. Morningstar will prompt you to log in, and you can log in and create a free account, which is what you want to do. They really will try to get you to pay for it. And I'll tell you, there's really not much in the pay area that the average person needs. Just create a free account with Morningstar and then dive in. I think, OG, we're going to do a YouTube live fairly soon. I'd love to do a YouTube live just walking people through Morningstar and how to navigate that site. Because I think for the first person going in there, you're just going to get buried in all these pages and not know what's important and what's not. So pay attention to the 201, and we'll let you know when we're doing that. Thank you, Nina, for that question. And feel free to use that as kindling for the fire. If you've got a question and want to be like Nina, head to stackybenjamins.com/voicemail, and Nina getting a Haven Life t-shirt for being brave and asking the tough question about the prospectus.
Yeah, we give out amazing advice. Like every 60 seconds, there's something to take away from the show, but that wasn't one of them. You cannot use a prospectus as kindling because it's too dense. You got to take every page out and crumple it up and get a little airspace in there. If you just throw your prospectus and try to light it, it's not going to go well. It's that's not, don't do that.
Just sit by the fire, and as you're chatting with friends.
Well, light it first, get it roaring. Yeah, you could do that. You could crumple up each page and kind of have fun and add it slowly, but get that fire good and hot before you throw the prospectuses in. Don't try to start your fire that way. You'll be there all night.
It's prospecti, right? Prospecti.
Who the hell knows?
Prospectorum.
Prospector. That's
Prospectorus.
That's something that comes up in your throat when you've got that cold that won't go away.
stackybenjamins.com/voicemail is how you get there. That's going to do it for today. We've got lots of stuff happening, peeps, on the community calendar. Later on today at 4 p.m., I'll be with another fintech creator. That's 4 p.m. Central, by the way, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on Instagram Live. Doug hung out with me last week along with Tracy Conan. And by the way, you can see those if you just follow us on Instagram. Go back and see the last week's. Doug and I chatting about the insurance discussion and go bag discussion that we had here on the main show. And then Tracy and I talked about Mackenzie Bezos' divorce.
It was funny how the advice that I started giving, Joe, relative to homeowners insurance, you somehow labeled as insurance fraud. I'm not sure how we got there. And then, the minute that Tracy showed up, you broomed me off that stage so fast. I don't get
she brought it though, didn't she?
Yeah, she usually does, but I'm still a little bit scarred. I'm a little bit wounded from
Well, you're the warm-up act. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being the opening act for, the big time band. And Tracy brought it. If you're worried about a divorce, by the way, her divorce money guide, she talked about all the things that she does as a accountant spy to find all this hidden money or the chance of hidden money. So join us on Instagram for that. Today on Friday, another great roundtable. We've got somebody's having a birthday a couple days from now. Won't tell you who, but it's a neighbor of ours, and might be a surprise celebration here on Friday on the show. Good times. But if you're not here for birthday celebrations, you're not here to hang out with us on Instagram. You're here because you're concerned about the market and all this chatter about recessionary times. OG and his team have put together a free guide that shares 8 moves to make in a down market. This guide will help you plan more, panic less, no matter what the market does. So head over to stackingbenjamins.com/guide and get this helpful free guide from OG, stackingbenjamins.com/guide. All right, that's it for us today. Hopefully we see you over on social media land on Instagram later, peeps. But Doug, what should we have learned today?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from Krista Edwards. Don't wait on doing that big thing you've always wanted to do. With some planning and a willingness to try something new, you too could have a rewarding experience climbing mountains, fighting off pumas, and finding out how nice it is to use soap on a regular basis. Second, signing on a loan for a family member? I'd think twice, or maybe, oh, hell no. But the big lesson? Okay, this whole time, I thought we were talking about a tycoon. It turns out a typhoon is just a hurricane that studied abroad during its junior year. Thanks to Krista Edwards for joining us today. You can find her podcast, Ready to Roth, thousands of miles deep in the wilderness, or wherever you're listening to us right now. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2022, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Our producer is Karen Repine. The show is written by the brilliant Paulette Perhatch, with help from Joe, me, and Doc G from the Earn and Invest podcast. After you listen to our show, check out the 201 Deep Dives, written by our website manager and blog editor, Brooke Miller. You'll find the 411 on all things money at the 201. Just go to stackingbenjamins.com/201. Once we bottle up all this goodness, we ship it to our engineer, the amazing Steve Stewart. Steve helps the rest of our team sound nearly as good as I do right now. Want to chat with friends about the show later? Mom's friend Gertrude is our social media coordinator and the room mother in our Facebook group called The Basement. So, say hello when you see us posting online. Here's a weird fact. Both she and Tina Eichenberg are never in the same room at the same time. To join all the basement fun with other stackers, type stackingbenjamins.com/basement. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show. Not only should you not take advice from these dorks, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor.
But you know what? Before all that, and before our headline, what were we doing? I was wondering, Doug.
How about you say right before I get my stuff ready to go hike the Texarkana Trail?
I could do that, but I was going to call on one of you guys to do it.
Oh.
Do the same thing, but just say Doug.
Okay, well, let's do it. But before we do that, OG, you know, have you ever thought about hiking the Pacific Crest Trail?
No.
Why would you ask him that question? Of the three of us, like that was the guaranteed answer from him.
I mean, 20 years ago.
Oh, God, no.
And now pivot. But if I was going to, you know what I'd do first? You just talk. You just coach me on what to tell. I tee you up, and we're waiting for it.
It was absolutely Lucy pulling the ball away from Charlie Brown. No. This time it's going to be great. Give it a whack, Charlie.
What's the next sentence? No but. It's no but.
He's not going to do it.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Are you kidding me?
I've completely, the sentence fragments have totally, I've lost it all.
You just told me what to do. Hey, you know, hike the Texarkana Trail. But before I did it, I thought so I'm like, but I want to call one of you guys. And you said, okay, so we'll do it. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
OG.
You said, did you ever think about doing the PCT? And then I waited because then I figured that's where the ad goes. And then you looked at me and I said, no. And then
why would the ad go there? Why would I put...
This one's on you, dude. This one's even I was following Joe, and normally he completely loses me, and even I was there.
Have you ever thought about hiking the Pacific Coast Trail? And I would clearly cut there for Casper mattresses are fantastic.
Sorry.
Why would I cut there?
Well, you just make it up now anyway, so I don't know where it goes. I don't know why we can't just say ads, but I get it. So, all right, what do you want me to say?
You apparently listen to a lot of podcasts. Hey, OG.
Hey, Joe.
Do you ever think about hiking the Pacific Crest Trail?
I have never thought about hiking the Pacific Coast Trail.
Hey, wait. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Joe, hold on, Joe. I'm going to interrupt you right here because we've got Krista Edwards here, and thinking about her hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, I was about 2 years ago completely ready to hike the North Country Trail, which is actually the Mac Daddy of all of the through hikes in North America. Goes from North Dakota all the way to, I think, England. And before I could even get started, I got totally waylaid because of this.
Ninja.
Did you take notes, OG?
Picasso.